Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours, and the crown tonight belongs to the New York Knicks as the Knicks take home the NBA Cup, the third annual NBA Cup. They join the Lakers and the Bucks. We will talk about our reactions to that game and the tournament as a whole, betting angles from it, etc. We'll talk about that. We'll also give you best bets tonight on tonight's Buckets episode, as I am joined tonight by Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera from the Cash That podcast, an ecstatic Knicks fan. He's so happy that we didn't cash on our 250-1 ticket on the Spurs. So good for him for having his priorities in the right place and caring so much about the Knickerbockers and their chance to actually win something as opposed to the rest of their franchise history. I'm also joined tonight by the maestro of the market, Michael Fiddle, joining me tonight. Always love his work. Check out at Fiddle's Picks on Twitter in the Action Network app. And Fiddle goes live every day, breaking down the lines, talking about the market. If you're somebody who really loves talking about the market moves, because when we do the show, the lines are so fresh, we don't have as much movement as like I would like to talk about. I love breaking down, you know, how the sharps have hit these markets, but we just don't have the window because we want to get the pot up overnight leading into the next night's game, so you have enough time to get your bets in. And as a result, if you want to be able to get all that information, make sure you go check out Mike's show on Twitter at Fiddle's Picks. Reminder, everything we talk about tonight can be found in the award-winning Action Network app, or you can sign up for Action Pro. And it's that time of year. We got the best deal on Action Pro right now. If you use Pod 20 right now, you're going to get $20 off an annual subscription of Action Pro. You sign up for Action Pro and you're going to get instant alerts on when Sean Kerner places a bet, when Chris Raybon places a bet, when Brandon Anderson places a bet. All of those NFL guys that kill it, Nick Giffen, all those you're going to catch in the Bet What Happens Live crew, how often they hit stuff. You're going to catch those. You'll get all of our experts, and you're going to want to sign up for that at actionnetwork.com/pro right now and just use Pod 20 for $20 off an annual subscription. All right. New York Knicks get the win. It's a Knicks podcast, I've been told. I wish I had more say over my own podcast, but it's fine. Joe Dellera, your reaction to the Knicks winning the Cup.
I mean, look, it is a Knicks podcast. We've been saying it all year. This is just perfectly fitting for the New York Knicks to win the NBA Cup. I mean, I think at the end of the day, obviously it's not a NBA title, but I do think that this is somewhat meaningful, especially for this franchise who really hasn't won anything ever, like in my adult life. So it's fun for me. I'm happy they won. You know, it would have been nice to cash 250-1, but you hedge out of it. That's what I did. So, because I was like, I'm not doing this to myself. But I think it's a good win. I think Mike Brown really coached the game, I think, actually very well. Was riding the hot hand, trusting Tyler Kolek a little bit, kind of pushing some of the right buttons with Mitchell Robinson, who is just an absolute monster on the glass. And, you know, honestly, at the end of the day, Brunson didn't really have a particularly great game and was still good, like still put up 25-8. So really good game for the Knicks. I'm happy they won. I'm glad they didn't have to play the Thunder. That probably would have been a lot tougher, but you know, the Spurs were a great team. And they showed what some of their ceiling is in this type of tournament, with beating Oklahoma City and then contending against the Knicks as well. So they were honestly in control of the game for the most part. Would have been interesting to see if Wemby wasn't on a minutes restriction, but at the end of the day, good win for the Knicks. Happy they won. This is a Knicks pod.
Fiddle, how annoyed were you with that first quarter? Because it was such a good look from you.
Such a good look. Just didn't get home. Not too annoyed, honestly. I thought it was a great spot. Process was right. So I was going to just be happy either way. There was a great Keontae George quote yesterday in the post game when he had a great game. And he's like, your dog doesn't know if you lost by 40 or won by 30. You just come home and your dog's happy you're home. So I was just like, you know, I'm not going to get too high or too low as after the result of this one. But big picture betting wise, I did have a few takeaways. I think Brunson winning Cup MVP was a little bit illuminating because OG was definitely the best player in this game. Like, I don't think that's questionable. Even Brunson, like, first thing he said on the microphone was shouting out OG. So I think takeaways is just like, we haven't known because it's the third year and it was LeBron and Giannis the first 2 years. Like, we don't know what matters more? Is it the duration of the cup? Is it the cup playoffs in Vegas, which are, the semifinals going to be back at a home court next year? Is it just the finals game for cup MVP? So we saw De'Aaron Fox take moves in pregame market and climb above Wemby. And so I thought that was telling. And then we see Brunson win, which I think is also telling because he was like the leading scorer throughout the entire NBA Cup stuff to date. So I thought that was like something to note for next year. I think the no travel aspect created a over situation where pace and efficiency was very high. So I do think the emphasis and like excitement and the playoff atmosphere is definitely there. But because there's no travel, then I think, and that might change next year too, the pace was just so high. And so a lot of these games were over games from a Vegas standpoint, like once we were in Vegas. So I thought that was something worth noting for the future. And so those are like my biggest takeaways for next year. And the idea that one team cares more than the other is total nonsense. Like all of these teams care a shit ton.
I don't know if you guys saw the voting tally for the NBA Cup MVP, if either of you saw it or not, but I think it is particularly illuminating because OG Anunoby out of the 20 media votes got 1. Jalen Brunson got the other 19. So Brunson got 19 of 20. And then the fan vote was interesting because the fan vote, Wemby got 3 of the fan votes. Brunson got the other 2 of the 5. So interesting how that works out. Fan vote could definitely get a little funky if this is a, maybe a little bit more closely contested type of scenario. But it does seem like the media voters are just saying best player on the team, on the winning team for the entirety of the tournament, and that's the way that they voted on it.
Okay, you're getting it's really funny. This is the only show where I have to actually talk about how the voters don't deserve as much credit as they get, because every other show I have to be like, no, like talking about it is just a narrative award is like, that's flawed. That's not how it is. And like, you have to understand, like, there's a lot of, like, here's the breakdown, blah, blah, blah. Like these guys are like, these voters, men and women, are actually all very smart people. And here I have to kind of be like, let's not give them too much credit here. Let's be real simple with this. The only reason that the best player on the winning team doesn't win every single time in the NBA Finals is because you have a sample size of 7. So you have good games and bad games, and that's what allowed for Andre Iguodala to steal it from Steph Curry. Is it was like, Steph really just wasn't that great. Like, Steph wasn't that great, and so
Jaylen Brown to steal it from Tatum twice.
No, that was legitimate because I bet on it. You don't understand, Fiddle. When I bet on him, it's a legitimate result. When Brandon Anderson is against it, then it's not. Shout out to that 50-1 hit on Jaylen Brown, Eastern Conference, Luka, Western Conference MVP. God, that was a fucking great hit. Anyway, so I think it's just very simply like in a one game sample, unless OG had he had to have had like a 35-point game in order for him to have like actually taken this. I still think it's whoever plays best in the final amongst the qualified stars.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's going to have to be. If OG had dropped 40, okay, then he wins.
Yeah. He was close. I mean, 28-9 for him he was a monster. Yeah. But I tend to agree.
Phil, I want to go back. Go ahead, Fiddle.
Why are there 20 media voters, but in the playoffs it's 5 per side?
Because I would imagine the cup gets more random voters in attendance. And go ahead.
I was going to say it's a good amount. It's a pretty good spread. Like Sam Amick, Jason Beatty, Tim Bontemps, Doris Burke, PJ Carlesimo, Mike Finger, Vince Goodwill, Chris Haynes, Kurt Helen, Cassidy Hubbard, Tim McMahon, Steve McGee, Rachel Nichols, Steve Popper, Sean Powell, Tim Reynolds, Taylor Rooks, Simone Sandry, Mark Spears, Joe Varden.
Yeah.
I guess the more voters you have, the more accurate of an award you're going to get. I just was caught off guard when Joe said it went 19-1, when in the NBA Eastern Conference, Western Conference, it's like it was 4-1 to this guy. Or 3-2.
It's always weird when it goes like that, but
there's more sense. There's more media there, and there's more media at the finals, but the difference is kind of that in the finals they are very selective about it being like legacy voters. Like they're like, we get one beat writer from each team. There's one representative from the broadcast team, and then like a select number of established voices. Fiddle, I want to hit you with two market things. One, you mentioned the over. So Vegas games are now, and we don't know, there's been already reports today from Joe Varden that they're reconsidering Vegas. I actually don't mind Vegas as the location for the final. They're moving the semifinals back to home locations next year, which I'm fine with. Like, those will be better for the crowds. You have to, though, you got to give people time. Like, I don't understand. Like, everyone's like, well, just nobody cares in Vegas. I'm like, no, this is not the problem. The problem is that you cannot tell. Like, even as much as I love the Cup, people are not so gaga over it. You cannot tell San Antonio fans, hey, you might want to go to Vegas if you're
next weekend, because it was a Saturday to Tuesday turnaround.
Yeah. You've got 2 days to call it for people that have lives to call into work, right? If you got childcare, you got to get childcare. You got to take care of whatever's going on in your life. Arrange to fly out to Vegas, stay in Vegas, go to this game. Then you're missing not only today, but you're missing tomorrow. Like, even if you got in today, which you probably don't want to, because you don't want to risk missing the game, right? Like, if you had scheduled your flight to land today at like 2 p.m. Pacific, you may not have enough time. Like, if your flight's delayed, you miss the game. So you're probably flying in the day before on Monday. You can't fly out tonight. You're probably flying back out tomorrow. You're missing 3 days of work the week before Christmas when you've already scheduled PTO. These are the type of things that drive me nuts, where I'm like, you guys really have like never worked in like the real world, have you? Like, all of you have just worked in the NBA and worked on this schedule. Like, you can't just do this. You have to give them time, which is why the best answer is for it to play on the Friday night before All-Star. That is the absolute 100 best option.
What if the like, we had the semifinals games and quarterfinals, semifinals after the group stage. It was like Tuesday, Wednesday. What if we slide that over and it'd be like Monday and Wednesday are the quarters and the semis, and then it's on Saturday in Vegas? And so it's coming. You have 4 days. It's going to be on a weekend, maybe something like that. But I agree. You should kind of know. It should be like the Super Bowl, where you get like 2 weeks notice. Yes,
you get notice to figure out. You need to get there, and it needs to not be during the holidays. But to your point, what you're talking about with the over. So going into this tournament, the unders were undefeated in cup play. They are now 7-2 because the Knicks went over in both of their cup games in Vegas. Now, I am traditionally the person that's like, look, I used to do statistical analysis for nonprofits. That used to be my job. Like, used to work in SPSS. I understand the value of sample size. I am cognizant of our values. I am aware, but I'm also not doing a white paper. I'm looking for trends. So I'm always more willing to look at these like smaller sample selections. But this to me this was like an indication. It's why it was really hard for me. I bet the Knicks over in both of those games, in both their prior game and tonight. I bet the over, despite that trend, because model had it there. And when I looked at the numbers, it felt like it. I do think it's kind of a reminder of, we're still so early in this cup that we can't be taking the results as anything to kind of build a trend off of. I know, Fiddle, you're not a big trend bearer anyway, but especially I think in this environment, we really just don't know what these games are going to look like year to year.
Yeah, I'm the person that says like an entire season is probably not enough sample size data, right? Like, there's case studies of blackjack players who play exactly the same way, and they're all plus EV blackjack players, and they play 10,000 hands, and one of them has a minus 20 ROI, and another person has a plus 30% ROI, and it just like that just explains some variance within these things. Also worth noting that, like, and Joe, I'd like your input on this. Tyler Kolek has that breakaway layup at the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
And he puts it in. It was like 30 seconds left, and like, so the Knicks would have to dribble it out, and it would have been the Knicks were up 10. It would have been a shot clock violation, and then the Spurs had 3 seconds left. It's probably 27 seconds left.
Yeah.
If Tyler Kolek doesn't lay that in, this game goes under, because he lays it up. Then we get a Dylan Harper 3. Then we get a Josh Hart basket. Like, this game actually goes under in the last 20 seconds. I had a bad ticket on an under, and I almost got so lucky. But you think San Antonio would have bothered to foul if Kolek just dribbled that out from under the basket and didn't take the free layup?
Probably not. I think at that point it was like, they kind of
like
look at
they
it.
gave up.
I think the writing was on the wall. It's like, look, we're not going to come back in a free throw battle down 10
with 20 seconds left. I think it was done. And I think Kolek laid that up. And I was like, oh, painful for me. But luckily on my bad number, I didn't get caught in the CLV zone where, like, if I had a better number, I would have won, and I could have. But so I was glad that, Harper and Hart made some shots after that.
They clutched up for you.
Yeah, it made it less painful.
Fiddle, I was really surprised that we had bets and money both on Spurs tonight. I was surprised on that. Both. I would have thought the Knicks would be the public side, and I would have thought that, honestly, the Knicks would have been the sharp side too. I was surprised that this wound up 56% of the tickets, 62% of the money coming in on that side of it.
Joe, did you have an opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like, I think people wanted to bet on Wemby, is really what it is. I think that like kind of made it less chalky, or so to speak. And honestly, I saw Raheem, he tweeted something. He was like, I feel like this line is awful, or like was one of the worst booked lines there could have been, when the Spurs were getting 10 against the Thunder on a neutral court a couple days ago. And then now you have the Knicks.
Yeah.
Wemby's presumably on the same minutes restriction, and it's 2.5. Like, it screamed just like recency bias plus Wemby. And that's public. Like,
let me quote you from a best bets file that was published on the Action Network today by a very good looking and not Kevin James looking writer, by the way, Apocalyptic, in the comments at youtube.com/the Action Network, who does not look like Kevin James whatsoever. That writer noted this. Here's the differential between the Knicks and the Spurs on net rating, just pure net rating. The Knicks were plus 4.4. Non-garbage time, clean the glass, Knicks plus 6.2. Schedule adjusted via dunks and threes, Knicks 3.2. Dunks and threes projected differential tonight was 3. The market power rating via impredictable.com was 5.1. That was the market differential between these two teams, was 5.1. My power ratings had 2.8. My in-season power ratings had 2.8. I love the Knicks tonight. I was like, there is zero reason for this line to be this. Like, this is an absurd line that I was going to bet absolutely, like, no matter what.
Yeah, I felt the same way, and I was very surprised. I actually don't think it was too much public sentiment, because even right before tip, it was like some very market-leading and sharp books moving to 2. And I was like, what is going on? Who is this? Why are they doing this? Joe, you said Raheem tweeted out that he's like, why is this 2.5? I called Raheem yesterday.
It after. Yeah, I just saw he tweeted. I think he tweeted it like after the game. But
I called him in the middle of the day yesterday, and I go, what is with this? And he's like, yeah, I agree. It should be 4. And I'm like, it should be 4. That's exactly what it should be.
Yep.
And so in hindsight, like, I going into the game, I was like, well, shit, like, my Knicks read might be wrong. The first quarter angle was completely right. Like, I actually said on Buckets yesterday, I think that line should be minus 142. It closed minus 140. So I was actually very, like, proud of the process right there. But I was questioning the Knicks stuff a lot. And then throughout the game, I guess, I mean, there was reasons to. Devin Vassell's all of a sudden a flamethrower. But the Knicks angle to me was very strong pregame and leading up to the game. There was no movement in the market all week. And with all these numbers, with all these market ratings, with all these angles, with all these past history, with all these model stuff, I'm like, this can only move towards Knicks, and it still didn't. So, like, I was confused.
The spot was so bad with the and like, look, this is a little bit of a heavy victory lap. It could have gone the other way. Spurs were up at half, right? Like, this was like Spurs were up after 3. Like, this was very much a game that they could have won. But it was just like, it was such a letdown spot to me, based off of you just beat OKC. And it made that, I really do think, Joe, that was the part of it. I don't even think it was betting Wemby. I think it was like, they fucking beat OKC.
Thunder. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the combination. I think it's 100% the combo.
And my thing is, I'm like, the Blazers beat the Thunder. Are the Blazers good? No. So, like, the Spurs are obviously good, but there's no indication. But the other thing is just like, that's such a bad letdown opportunity. Now, I think you can probably argue like it wasn't a letdown spot because the Spurs led after 1, 2, and 3. Like, that's totally fine. But I just didn't understand the process of having the Knicks only be a 2.5 point favorite, especially when I knew that was going to be a Knicks partisan crowd, because the Knicks fans are much more likely to travel to Las Vegas and San Antonio, because San Antonio fans have to work for a living. And so there's like problems that you have to kind of deal with that. They're not all rich New Yorkers that are just able to take off work and go to, all this.
Matt, can I ask you one question of like, maybe this was the reason why it was 2.5, and you would be the right person to answer this for me?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we have all of these ratings and models and systems and projections and everything. The one kind of caveat that can dictate NBA line that's come out and subsequent moves is matchups, right? And so can you give a good reason why Knicks versus Spurs is specifically a good matchup for Spurs? Because that's the only thing I was thinking, like, is it 2 points better on rating? Because like we have examples where like the Kings match up really well with the Nuggets for some reason, and just like we have some of these other data points. Is there a reason why Spurs should be a good basketball angle against the Knicks?
Joe has thoughts.
I thought that the Spurs guards, the wings in particular, could bother Jalen Brunson. And I think Castle like did bother Jalen Brunson. It just is like, you can only bother the guy so much. He's good. But at the same time, I thought that was going to maybe slog down the offense. And if they could keep Brunson under 30, which is what they did, I thought that it would be tough for New York. Like somebody else has to step up then. Here, OG Anunoby, monster game, and Tyler Kolek, really good game as well. And then Mitchell Robinson was a monster on the glass. So I think that for me, when I was thinking about it from a scheme perspective, I felt like San Antonio did a good job against Oklahoma City, who runs, like, I don't want to say it's a similar style offense, but they have similar types of players. Obviously you have Shea leading the charge, like very similar in terms like to Brunson in terms of what they do. Shea's bigger though. So, and I think you could argue Brunson's maybe like a little bit of a better passer at this point, but still they generally do the same thing. J-Dub, there's corollaries for New York, whether you want to say it's probably closer to OG Anunoby at this point. And then Chet, and like Cat's not as good of a defensive player, but you have Chet, Cat. Like I think they line up similarly in terms of who they have personnel wise. And we just saw it kind of be effective against Oklahoma City the other day. New York, though, I think generally is a little bit better at getting more threes up. So that I think might have been some of the difference there too. So I don't know, but that was part of my thing from a basketball perspective. Matt, I don't know if you saw something else on the X's and O's.
I mean, I think a lot of it I thought it was less about the defense side, because I like these teams to be able to score.
Yeah.
For me, it was more of the offensive side, that like who's going to slow down the Spurs guards. And it's interesting because it went over, but Castle finishes with 15 points on 15 shots, and Fox finishes with 16 points on 13 shots. Like I actually think that they didn't go to De'Aaron Fox enough in this game. I think that he probably could have been a lot more effective. Like one of the reasons I was on Stephon Castle under on his points, and it cleared by 2 points in this one, was because Castle takes the most shots outside the two Spurs that take the most shots in the restricted area outside of the paint are Castle and Fox, which is not surprising, right? Like your point guards get downhill and they take the floater. The Knicks are absolutely 100% elite at that. The reason is because Mitchell Robinson and Cat have really good understanding of how to play drop defense to be able to challenge those shots in space to where you're not giving up the layup on the, like if they fake it with a ball fake or a dribble fake and still be able to contest it. Like teams are shooting 42% in the paint outside of the restricted area versus the New York Knicks. That is the best mark in the league defensively. So that was, to me, I was like, well, then, the plus side is that the Spurs guards will be able to get downhill. The problem is that like once you get downhill, the Knicks are specifically built to be like, well, you're not getting all the way. So I thought that I would have assumed that the Spurs guards would have been able to score more in this game, honestly. And I think when you look at Dylan Harper going for 21, that probably adds into like, that's part of that equation too. Yeah. My problem was like, from a basketball standpoint, I really love this for the Knicks too, because when you kind of look at it, it's the Spurs actually just aren't, I'm trying to think how to put this. The Spurs are a really good team that is heading in the right direction, and they're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to have their first playoff appearance, and you're going to get playoff Wemby, and they're going to make a really good showing. they're just not ready yet. They're not elite in any of these areas. There's nothing on the Spurs under the hood numbers or analysis where you go, they're elite at this. You know what they're elite at? Having Victor Wembanyama. And I really like the combination of Mitchell Robinson. And honestly, I thought Josh Hart did a better job on him than I was expecting tonight, because Hart, a good example of like where Victor is versus where he will go is Josh Hart versus Giannis Antetokounmpo is dog water. Like, he is absolute barbecue. Giannis annihilates him because Giannis is a much more refined, much stronger, and much more complete player. Like, Josh Hart versus Giannis when he was Wemby's age would have probably done pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of me. So the answer to your question is like, no, I don't think this line was set because of a matchup thing. I really do think it was the perception based off of they beat OKC. They have Victor Wembanyama, which most people would agree is the best player in the matchup. Though I think, like I talked about this on Locked On NBA this morning, Brunson has to kind of get the credit for just being a more polished, complete player. This is still
the minutes weight would just say Brunson's going to be more important in this game because he can play 13 extra minutes.
Yeah. I did say this is my final line of the preview I wrote. I said they slayed the dragon, but the Knights of San Antonio will fall to the drudge of Knicks middle management office work-like approach. And that is absolutely accurate. The Knicks are middle management, and they just wear you down with their blasé and boring ass hyper-capitalistic viewpoint. Congratulations, Joe Dellera and the New York Knicks. We will do best bets, and we'll give you a special head-to-head prop you can only find at DraftKings Sportsbook coming up. But first, the Buckets Podcast is teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has you covered. Bet live on star player props and in-progress games right as they happen. To get started, use promo code BucketsNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BucketsNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. Okay, one more note before we're done here. When we go into the Cup next year, Joe Dellera, when we're doing futures, I am prohibiting anyone to take long shots. I know we almost got home on Spurs 250-1. We got that in tournament when it was like, wait, if they beat the Blazers and the Nuggets who've been bad at home, they're going to win the group. And then we got the Spurs with Victor Wembanyama having to win 3 games. Yeah. It was a specific spot that we got in tournament. But look at who's won this thing. Lakers, Bucks, Knicks. These are all teams expected to be top 4 in the conference going into the season. Like, that's going to have to be the threshold that we start with. No more like, what about Zion Williamson? What about this? Like, it's got to be a team that we know is going to be a top 4 seed.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake that we had made, going into it. But I will say that once we get towards like the end of the group play, like how we talked about that Spurs line, it's actually very similar to Summer League, which I love betting. And because you just get funky outcomes, because it's harder to cap what all of the different situations are. And while, there's generally going to be, an edge that the book's going to have, or the price is going to be priced in. Sometimes there's a little bit of meat left on the bone when they're pricing some of these funky outcomes. So definitely something that we'll look for again next year. And it was fun.
Favorites finish now in group stage play this is Vegas level play, are 6-3 straight up and ATS with an ATS margin of 3.9. But as Fiddle said, sample size very small.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a 250-1 going into that game, like that is money in the bank, right? Like, you have an amazing hedge opportunity. But if we're going a no long shots futures type of podcast, we're suddenly going from a Knicks pod to a Fiddle pod. So I like these things.
All right, let's do some best bets. We'll get best bets from Joe and Fiddle here. Let's start with Michael Fiddle. Fiddle, what's your best bet for Wednesday night in the association, as we only have 2 games on the schedule?
Yeah, it's a gross 2 games too, because it's Cavs, Bulls, and Memphis and New Orleans. I mean, Memphis and Minnesota, but it's 4 of the teams you could trust the least in the NBA. I'll take the Cavaliers -5 as my 3-star play for today. I think this should be 5.5 or slightly greater. I've actually personally been a little bit down on Evan Mobley this season and his growth. And so I actually think the value lost in losing Mobley is not going to be as big as the numbers are going to be perceived. Right now, if you're doing market ratings versus modeling for any Cavalier stuff, your models, they're kind of like Clippers East right now, where if you model them, that's not going to give you the same number as the market. So I can't say and be like, my model has it at 6.6. It's just not true. I just think this is a strong spot for the Cavaliers, who clearly need to come out with focus, who need to come out with attention to detail, who lose a player who's going to be priced beyond the price point that I can give it, because I think Mobley has been underperforming this season. Some of the stats look decent, but he's been given so much usage and so much leash that I actually think he's been inefficient and not that great. Jared Allen is back. Garland has got his name in trade talks right now. So these guys, I think it's time for the Cavaliers to step up. And I think the zombie Bulls have finally had their anecdote where they're finally dead. So I'll take the Cavaliers -5 here. I think that's in this 2-game slate. That's my favorite one.
Whew. Okay. I'm going to stay away from this one because I've got disagreement between my preseason priors model and my in-season, which is not surprising because I don't know if you know this, but the Bulls have been horrible and the Cavaliers have been really underperforming. So it's hard to figure out what's real and what's not. Like, what's surprising is the in-season model, even with the Cavaliers disappointing, is like, oh no. The Bulls are garbage. The Cavs are pretty good. And that's a reasonable cap on this game. I do want to go back to Mobley though. Okay. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can do your own thing. And like I always say, you need to be able to figure out you need to figure out how you establish your numbers and how you evaluate things, like what's Mobley worth to the spread. You don't have do you have a player specific projection, Fiddle?
Yes, I have Mobley at 2.4 ATS.
Okay. So what I've done is I've taken EPM, because I don't know if you know this, but I love that stat. I love it so dearly. I love it very, very much. It's the best catch all. Although I am getting more, I am finally coming around to real adjusted plus minus. But I take APM and converted that into a spread value. But then I went a step further. And what I've done is I've taken all of the players at a player's position and then gotten their average. And then you find the difference between them. So like, what is the gap between Evan Mobley and the replacement value players on a per 36 basis? If we increase the values of those players to 36 minutes to fill in the average gap here, what's that going to be? And I've got Mobley at 4.2. Like, that's where he comes out based on that system, which is not surprising because, like, he's going to pop under defensive EPM, etc. So that's not to say that it's right or wrong, but I do think it's like, one question I would have for you is, as much as I love Dean Wade, and we will talk about Dean Wade in a minute, I love Dean Wade, but like the drop off to me of Evan Mobley to their other bigs outside of Jared Allen, especially their power forwards, is so significant. That makes me a little bit worried about trying to get an accurate number on him.
Yeah, the way it's worth talking about the process in coming to these numbers. Mine is just a market rating on these players. So I was lucky enough this offseason to have an opportunity to like work in the background with 7 different bookmakers and get all their opinions asked on every player that might be worth more than 1 point. And then they all sent back data. And so then it was like coming to a consensus number and then going back to the bookmakers. And it was like a trade of information.
Nice.
And it was like, hey, we'll give you the consensus so you know where you might be on or off for certain players. And that also allows us to form a consensus across the market for where these players are. So that was like a really exciting like, I love, that's like the nerd in me absolutely loves that stuff. And so Mobley came in at 2.4. So I actually think it's for me, it's just been downgraded this season, especially with Allen. And I understand if statistics are going to have it higher because they've been playing without Allen for many of those games too. So it is tough to wait within individual statistics this season.
Okay. As we kind of continue here, I think it's tough to kind of weigh where Mobley is at based off of the performance. The Cavaliers are also like, it's bizarre, right? Where they've been good under the radar, but they haven't been good overall. Like, they lose to these weird games, but even then, I I looked at it. They're actually not terrible versus like the bad teams. They lost to the Hornets, who I'm slowly coming around on.
They scored 0 points. Have you ever seen that happen in NBA history? They scored 0 points in overtime.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And they seem like the vibes are not good. The vibes are very, 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 very bad there. I don't disagree. This is a pretty good spot though, with the Bulls being such an underperforming team. So I don't mind that play at all. Joe Dellera, I wanted to get to your best bet. Can we get to your 3-star, please?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to be on Anthony Edwards over 27.5 points. He's missed the last 2 games for the Timberwolves with a foot injury, but now at this point it's going to be 9 days between his last game against the Suns, which he played on December 8th, and then tomorrow or today, Wednesday. In that game against the Suns, he scored 40 points. I'm wondering if, based on the schedule, they maybe decided to give him a couple maintenance days, a couple extra days of rest, just based on the way the schedule was kind of unfolding. This matchup has also been particularly good for him. Number one, he's scoring 28.6 points per game this season, but against Memphis, he's been really solid. Last season, he scored 44 and 32 in his more recent games against Memphis. I think he kind of gets up for the Ja matchup. And they've really struggled to slow him down. So I think that he is going to be in a good situation here. Memphis has not been particularly strong defending pick and roll ball handlers either. They don't foul as much as you would think they would, but he's been pretty effective against them. Additionally, Memphis plays at a pretty fast pace. They're 11th right now, which is a pace up spot for Minnesota. And Ant still is taking a bunch of threes, and Memphis is allowing 3-point opportunities as well. So I think it's a good spot for Ant in a matchup where he should be pretty rested coming off of this injury. Obviously, if he doesn't play, then it's a void, but we'll take it as it is.
Yeah, I think it's a smart play. Memphis, Zach Edey is such an important part of that team. I think that's really important to kind of look at. Fiddle, let's go back to you for your 2 and your 1 stars. Let's go. Talk me through your 2-star play of the night.
Yeah, both of these I'm going to stay in the Cleveland-Chicago game. Just the amount of injury news, whether that's Ant, and I think Joe's cap on Ant is strong and he likely plays, but also Ja makes just the injuries in that game makes it so hard to price and project for me. So I'll stay in this Cavaliers and Cleveland game, and I'll take the over 242.5. This one's more of just a market read. We are seeing this increase, and I think this is going to go up to about 244 or higher. So I will happily play a 242.5 towards the over here. Anytime I can get like at least 1 point in front of closing line value for a NBA total, I'm in a good place. I always like to reiterate that, like, while CLV is what drives me in betting process, if you're half a point in front of a NBA total, you probably have a break-even bet. Like, you might be directionally correct, but you might not have enough EV to have a plus EV ticket. So I really strive to get a full point ahead of the closing lines, if that's your greatest gauge for quantified value. So I think this could close at 244, and so I'll take it at 242.5. If you're looking at this and seeing 243.5, like, that's where I would skip it. And then 1 star is going to be Dean Wade double. I just think this is horribly mispriced at our beloved DraftKings. Sorry to the crown is Dean's is actually how it should be tomorrow. It's 30-1 at DraftKings right now, and I just think that's a little bit off because the pace should be relatively fast in this game. There should be a volume of counting stats to go around. He's playing a lot of 4. He might play some undersized 5 minutes for them and some small ball lineups without Mobley, without a defensive player of the year kind of guy. You're going to just get more rebound opportunities for Dean Wade. He played 32 minutes in his most recent game. He had 8 rebounds. So it's just like, if we extrapolate a rested spot, some similar usage rates, but hopefully a faster paced game, because even that game against Charlotte went under, even though it went to overtime. So counting stats should be higher. I think this is a clear opportunity where grab a 30-1. It's a 1 star. Not going to be able to see it in the market for that long. It probably drops to 20-1, which is probably around where it should be in fair odds. And so I'll take that on Dean Wade double as well.
Yeah, your position on these is going to keep me basically. I'm not going to bet anything tomorrow. In part just because like I've got like you're on the over here. I've got this one under by about 5 points. And it's
Without
funny.
Mobley?
Yeah, without Mobley. Even with the Mobley projection. Actually, no, before the Mobley projection, I have it 5. I don't know if he's worth 5 points to the total though. I think, and maybe he is based off of the defensive impact and the offensive impact. Some numbers here, just as like general trends. I thought this was interesting. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 27th in. No, I'm sorry. They are first actually in over rate on the road. They are number 1 in the league. The Cavaliers are on the road in total, their total performance. The Bulls, though, are 27th at home. So you have number 1 versus 27 in terms of their performance versus the over-under. So I don't really know what to make of that. It makes me a little bit nervous just because like we saw them score 0 points in overtime. They do have these lulls offensively, and it's really baffling. And the Bulls have been so maddeningly terrible that it's kind of hard to kind of predict what they're going to be able to do and how that's going to be able to go. So I think I have a hard time with it, but I think the cap is really solid on Chicago, Cleveland over 42.5. And I think the idea of it being a fast paced game is probably accurate. Look, you're never going to talk me into a Dean Wade double. I love Dean Wade. Would love to see this happen for him. Would love to see him get back to being more of a contributor. Would like to see him play more. Think that he should play more for the Cavs, not less. I become more and more concerned about Kenny Atkinson day after day. So I do kind of like this. It is interesting though, that on a double play, based off of where the Bulls are at, and they do have so many bigs, and they like to play double big lineups. So maybe that's like a little bit of a concern there with Wade trying to get those rebounds.
Yeah, Jalen Smith, like quietly really good. I think actually the Bulls have some underrated players in like Trey Jones and Jalen Smith type of guys. They don't have the high end talent. There's also a Josh Giddey triple double out there plus 750. I think that's objectively a good number as well. For anyone who likes the long shot 1-star kind of angles, Giddey triple double, Dean Wade double are both fun and probably plus EV according to market.
I assume you have a power rating. Is that correct?
For these games?
For the like you as part of your process that you have a power rating for each team, yes.
I use market ratings primarily, and then I run a model specifically for matchups.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair enough. I've got market rating via Unpredictable for Chicago at minus 4.3, and the Cavaliers are hanging in at 3.1. That's down so much from where the Cavaliers probably opened at. And that's, again, I'm very disappointed in the Cavaliers. I've got them currently even with preseason priors, I've got them at 2.3. I have the Cavaliers significantly underwater based on in-season numbers.
Yeah, they've been terrible. Like the eye test meets the numbers too. They've been horrible.
They've been so bad, but I have the Bulls that much worse. That's why I lean a little bit towards Cleveland in this case, because the Bulls have been that much worse. Like I have the Bulls right now minus 9.5, which is absolutely stunning. Joe Dellera is back with us after he had to go take a call from Jalen Brunson, congratulating us for being a Knicks pod.
I know. We had to book the bottle service. It's fine. So good. It went well.
Let's go to your 2 and your 1 stars, Joe.
All right. So my 2-star is Kobe White over 21.5 points. And my 1-star is Lonzo Ball over 8.5 rebounds plus assists. As for Kobe White, he's going under this line in 3 games in a row at the 21.5. But I do like this opportunity for him against the Cavs. Overall in the season, he's averaging 21.7 points per game. And these games that he's kind of gone under, a couple of them against the Warriors and against the Hornets, 2 teams that do a decent job of limiting 3-pointers, went under against the Pelicans, 1 for 10 from 3. I think that having a couple of days off, maybe reset that shot, will help him out a bit here. Also, looking at some of the similar players that have played against Cleveland recently, Kneppel, 29 points, Simons, 18 points, Pritchard, 42, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 30. I think that he's in that type vein of player. He gets to the free throw line pretty well. Good spot up shooter. Also pretty solid in transition. I think that without Evan Mobley, it obviously impacts the Cavaliers defense. I think that's a good opportunity then for Kobe White. As for Lonzo Ball, I was looking at this rebounds plus assist line. It's at 8.5. It's a number that he's gone over now in 15 of 20 games on the season. So he's been really contributing some of these extra stats. Like I like to call them usage stats, just because I think it matters more in terms of what his minutes are. Without Evan Mobley, I anticipate a couple more minutes for Lonzo Ball. I also think that he's been effective as a creator and as a rebounder. And here against Chicago, you're playing in one of the really the best pace up opportunities in the NBA. Additionally, they tend to allow a lot of rebounds to guards, and they also are allowing a high number of assists based on some of the pace that they're playing here as well. So I like the opportunity for Lonzo, and I wanted to use the rebounds plus assists. I don't know how much they really need him as a scorer with Garland and Mitchell, but I do think they need him just out there as an extra body without Evan Mobley. So I like the over 8.5 rebounds and assists, and you can grab that at plus money, I think, right about now.
Okay, I like all this. This tracks Ball over 8.5 RA is I think pretty smart, with especially with the look at the pace of this play. You can put together some pretty good same game parlays with where we're at on all this. So to review our best bets on the night, we'll go with Joe Dellera, Anthony Edwards 27.5 points, Kobe White over 21.5 points, and Lonzo Ball over 8.5 rebounds and assists. Michael Fiddle likes the Cleveland Cavaliers -5, the over in Bulls Cavs, and Dean Wade double at 30-1. I really love watching Fiddle work the market to find longer shots for some of these plays. It's been a lot of fun this year to see him because Fiddle is he is a tight poker player. Like he's just like very tight with how he plays it. All right, we have a play for you. We've got a head-to-head brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. They are one of the only markets where you can find they are the only place that offers these head-to-head markets, and they are so much fun to bet. So we're going to look at Kobe White versus Darius Garland. Kobe White is -2.5, -110, favored over Darius Garland on the points line. So Garland's +2.5, -120. So this has been hanging a little bit in Garland's direction since we set up our show. Over 41.5, under 41.5. Over 41.5 is -122. So they're leaning toward the over, which makes sense because Fiddle is the market maestro, and so they're looking for the scoring opportunities. I like this in particular because of something that I looked at on Garland's side. Garland's obviously struggling right now, has not been the same player this year. He's still dealing with that toe injury. He has not been right. I did a 5-year regression analysis on players, volume pick and roll scorers versus different clusters of defenses. So I bracketed the teams into percentiles and put them into 5 groups of how good of a defense they were, and then looked at the player performance from a scoring perspective based off of those performances. And here was a really interesting conclusion. Garland fits into a cluster of players who actually underperform versus weak defenses. He on average, he scores about a third of a point below his average versus weaker defenses. And the big thing here is against a team like the Cavaliers, whose defense has been suspect, or I'm sorry, against the Bulls, whose defense has been suspect, you're going to see that market line go up. So I want to be able to go the other way. I'm probably going to take the under on Garland. You can do under on Garland, over on White if you want to parlay those two together. But for our play, we're going to take Kobe White -2.5, -110 versus Darius Garland. Fiddle, what do you think?
I don't really have too strong of opinions on player matchups. I really like looking at these angles, and so I'd look towards usage rate, I'd look towards player props, but I would assume a lot of that is starting to be priced in. I'll look up some prop direction here, and so we're definitely seeing some oversteam on Kobe White at DraftKings. It's gone up a full point on his prop, and so Garland, on the other hand, I definitely think he's crazy affected by his current stuff. It has also gone down a point. So yeah, I agree. You have market direction, taking the over on Kobe White and the under on Garland. So I'm with it.
All right, Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Kobe White as it is, so I think it's a good spot here. I think that he's just a higher usage player on a more consistent basis in terms of what his shot volume is. Like, we know that he's the primary scorer on a nightly basis for Chicago. Whereas with Cleveland, it kind of bounces around a little bit. And I don't think that Mobley not being there is going to necessarily increase his usage significantly from a scoring perspective.
All right, that's going to do it for buckets. That'll be our official play from DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. My thanks to David Payne, our producer, for joining us tonight. My thanks to Giver Gould on the video side, helping us out there. Thanks to all of you for joining us in the chat at youtube.com/theactionnetwork. We'll be back tomorrow night for more best bets at 11 o'clock Eastern. Michael Fiddle at Fiddle's Picks, Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera. We'll see you guys again next time. Until then, let's get buckets.